Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Sunday, September 5th. So the moon is still very much in Leo. All of the aspects taking place today are going to be in Leo, but it will be going void of course, 11:23 a.m. and not really lock into Virgo energy until 8:07 p.m. We do not have any aspects with the moon in Virgo towards the end of the day, so it is very much led, pushed, and illuminated by the moon in Leo. We have to kind of piece the connections together here. Sunday is ruled over by Leo, and of course the sun rules over Leo. So although Leo would be its most powerful energy in a sun sign position, the moon in Leo is still going to kind of reignite some of the illuminations, some of the power shifts that we had back in Leo season. We have 11 different aspects taking place here today, and 8 of them involve the moon. We are in the new moon window, which typically highlights the not so nice parts, the not so nice thoughts, the not so nice emotions. We are in the surrendering stage of manifesting, and we are moving into the dark night sky. This is going to put a little bit of a damper on what the Leo energy usually provides us with, because of course we have to move into the darkness in order to figure out what it is we never want to experience again. The moon goes ahead and bumps into Neptune, and this is going to provide a little bit of an opportunity for us to learn through a tension point, through a crisis point, through a particular struggle. Now, this is going to illuminate some extreme emotions for us. We tend to be very unrealistic, and we're going to want to escape our realities. Now, typically speaking, the moon in Leo is bright. It is optimistic. It is that lion, that king of the jungle. However, this Neptune energy puts a little bit of a damper on that because we kind of tap into all the feels, and right now all the feels are a little bit on the negative side. Because we are feeling a little bit overwhelmed here, that Neptune energy kind of trumps that Leo energy and definitely makes us want to escape not only from our roles and responsibilities in our real life, but in our emotions and in our minds. Caution, this is a time when many people turn to drugs, to alcohol, to throwing themselves into work, through food, to numb, to basically disconnect and disassociate from the present moment and numb their emotions and numb their mental plane. So we want to be very cautious with this particular energy that we're not escaping into bad habits in order to numb the feelings and numb the thoughts that are arising. The moon makes an aspect with Mercury. Mercury, of course, the ruler of the mental plane, very much trying to balance things out while in Libran energy. And unfortunately, because we are in the dark phase of the moon, this is not going to be a beneficial aspect. We're having a hard time communicating within ourselves, between our heart and our head, what it is that's actually going on. It's even harder for us to communicate our thoughts and feelings outward. We are kind of being caught up in the negative narrative. We're stuck in the old ways of thinking. We're stuck thinking in the past, and we're having a hard time to stay in this present moment, which of course the sun in Virgo and being in Virgo season really wants us to do. This is going to illuminate for us a lot of insecurities, a lot of basically the want, need, and desire to escape the changes that we've already initiated just to stay in what is familiar and what is comfortable. This puts a different kind of damper on what it is that we've been pushing towards. And let's just look at the silver linings, that this could be an opportunity to dive deep in the darkness, to eliminate and to destroy a lot of the fears and insecurities, the negative narrative, for good. The moon in Leo sextiles Venus, who is in her place of power in Libra. And this is really going to help shift us out, take one step out of the darkness that we took probably 4 steps into since the day began. This is really going to offer us a little bit of an opportunity to concentrate on all in which we are trying to create and bring to life. Venus in Libra, of course, is focused on love. She's focused on money, worth, value, and futuristic plans. We have to recognize that although we do crave stability, although we crave balance, peace, and harmony, although we crave fast forwarding through this very difficult adjustment period to get at our end result, we do have a lot of very positive things to focus on when we have control over our mental plane. This Venus energy really wants us to recognize where it is that we are putting forth the energy and effort to make sure that we are living a life that is including more love, more joy, more pleasure. Why? Because we've decided that we're worth it. We made that decision over a month ago, and that's why we chose one path over the other. That's why we chose to disconnect from the old, from the familiar, to take a risk, to move into unfamiliar territory where we can start living more authentically with our heart and with our soul. The moon is going to go ahead and actually bump into Mars, who is in Virgo. And I'll tell you, this is likely going to come as a little bit of an irritable surprise to us. This particular energy, first of all, Leo energy, fire. Mars, fire, but grounded out in Earth energy being in Virgo. This is an aggressive energy, pushing forward, making things happen, but only when it makes sense. Only when it's calculated, only when it's strategic, only when it's well thought out. This particular situation, though, is likely going to present us with a situation where an outside trigger in our external realms, whether that's somebody else, whether that's plans falling through, an outside influence, basically disrupts our energy field and could put us in a situation where we're highly moody, highly irritable, where we're funneling in all of that nervous energy from the Virgo energy itself, and where we could possibly, if we are not quick to act as the observer and stop the reaction from ego, act on our feelings in not such a nice way. We do have a beautiful opportunity to rise above this particular situation when the moon in Leo bumps into Pluto, the god of the underworld, who is retrograde in Capricorn. This is another tension point, but we're already in it, so it's nothing new. This is a beautiful learning point in order for us to take emotional control. Again, with that outside trigger coming into play, we are going to have the opportunity to disconnect very quickly, to not react from ego, and to elevate our mind space to act as the observer. When we recognize that our pain, our trauma, our fears, our insecurity, our lack of control over our physical realm is triggered, that it can put us into a spiral. The moon goes ahead and sits across from Jupiter, who is retrograde in Aquarius. Now, this is going to really amplify the situation that we're currently dealing with, this outside trigger, these not so nice thoughts, these not so nice feelings, and potentially acting out on that anger and frustration. The moon in Leo, opposite Jupiter. Jupiter, of course, is putting the magnifying glass on the situation, making it a way bigger deal than it actually is. Really putting an emphasis on the overwhelming emotions, even though they're not as overwhelming as we tend to feel that they are. And really putting a huge emphasis on what it is that we are constantly obsessing over. Yes, our emotions are running high. Yes, we want to act out on our feels. Yes, we are obsessed with wanting to gain control over our physical realms, over our thoughts, over our emotions. But because we aren't being supported with a lot of positive energy and aspects right now, we can slip into some very damaging and destructive habits. Venus tries to help us out here and makes a very interesting aspect with Mars. So the interesting part here is that Venus and Mars, of course, are the feminine and masculine energies of the cosmos that we are all made up of. We are striving to balance these energies, and Venus and Mars are constantly chasing one another throughout the cosmos, with very brief moments where they get to interact in a favorable energy, unifying the masculine and feminine divine energies within us. Venus is in her place of power, Mars not so much in his place of power. And so this particular conversation is about how do we get back on the same page? How do we align our heart with our head? How do we act in accordance to our heart and soul and our higher selves instead of reacting out of anger, frustration, and fear? This, of course, is really going to help us focus in on our issues. First of all, the relationship issues that we're having, likely the trigger that we would have had earlier, and what it is that we need to analyze, again, Virgo energy coming into our help here, to analyze why we're being triggered in this way, why we're unable to disconnect in that moment to see the bigger picture unfold, why we feel the need to react from ego because of the past pain and trauma patterns that are very, very much integrated in our unconscious self. This is going to provide us with a beautiful opportunity to gain some insight. Again, being in Virgo season, we have the ability to come up with some very interesting solutions to the aha moments, the problems that we are currently facing. Mercury in Libra is going to be making a beautiful, harmonious aspect with Uranus, who is retrograde in Taurus. This is going to be what saves us from the earlier struggle of kind of losing our shit. Now, Mercury in Libra, of course, wants to think fairly, wants to see both sides of the coin, wants to communicate fairly, and do what is right for all parties involved. This Uranian energy is the higher octave of the mental plane, the higher octave of Mercury. Whenever Mercury and Uranus make an aspect, it literally is us absorbing new information, new downloads from the cosmos, having this moment of genius, this aha moment of inspiration where we shift our perspective, where suddenly when we're analyzing what's going on here, when we're asking ourselves the right kinds of questions about why we act, think, and feel the way we do, we can have an aha moment that provides us with an opportunity to grow, to evolve, to do better. This is really going to be an intuitive insight, mental enlightenment that will totally change our perspective, our mood, and our path forward. The moon goes ahead and bumps into Chiron, and of course, Chiron is the wounded healer. He is going to illuminate for us the wounds subconsciously that are being triggered by this external event earlier on in the day. Now, does it feel good to acknowledge our wounds? No. Is it going to help us put into perspective why it is that we feel the way we do? Absolutely. It also, because the moon in Leo is very brave, is very bold, is very confident to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone and to take a risk, this could be a beautiful situation for us to realize where our fears, our insecurities, our lack of control, our powerlessness is keeping us in a state of reactivity, keeping us wounded, keeping us in ego, keeping us in a state of lashing out and projecting our negative emotions onto other people. We're going to likely retreat at this particular point in time, recognizing that if we continuously put ourselves in situations to be activated and to be triggered, that we're likely not going to be able to restrain ourselves and keep our actions in alignment with our higher selves, and instead recognize that we could be at a breaking point and we could actually cause a lot more pain and drama than what is needed. The moon in this particular moment makes a very positive aspect with Pluto. And Pluto, of course, wants to show us where it is that we have the ability to boss up, where we have the ability to shift our perspective to gain power over our emotions. This is essentially when the bold, brave, confident lion, king of the jungle, reemerges, and we use the pain, use the fear, use the insecurity and the shadow parts of our day as motivation to be better, to push ourselves further, to not succumb to past patterns and behavior. And to wrap the day up, Venus, who is in her place of power in Libra, is going to be making a tension point with Pluto to show us where we're feeling powerless, where in our relationships we are continuously being triggered, where it is that we're still striving for balance, striving for peace, striving for harmony. And we're learning this due to the extremes that we just lived through. This is also going to illuminate maybe where jealousy is hiding, maybe where past pain and past trauma from past situations are reemerging, for us to recognize that that was the past, that we had weak boundaries in that moment in those relationships, and that we actually did learn something. And when we learn something, when we have that awareness, where we take responsibility for our part that we played in those not so nice situations, now we're using that as a boundary, as a guideline, as a means to regain power and control, not only over our emotions, not only over our thoughts, but to actually take control over the actions that we're allowing in our personal relationships, and where it is that maybe we have to choose different actions in our relationships in order to rebalance the scales in the energy exchange in the relationships that we deem to be of value.